Welcome everybody to a brand new episode of Kaiju Conversation. I'm your host Elijah, and joining me is the always lovely, very smart and talented Michael Hamilton.
Wow, I don't even get that many compliments on my own podcast. Thanks, man.
Yeah, I'm trying to be better than Travis this week.
Well,
Try and show my appreciation for you.
well, I appreciate that. I appreciate you appreciating me. So there's all kinds of appreciation today.
Right. I feel like because he's kept you in the basement for a few weeks now. It's only honorable to show my appreciation for all you do, right?
Well, yeah, of course. I mean, Travis does he I think he has like an authoritarian complex where he wants to just shove me away in the basement and have the whole thing be taken over by himself. I don't know. I'm just speculating here, but no, I know Travis, my co-host for Kaiju Weekly. He's fantastic. We do poke fun. We poke fun at each other, it's all good. It's all good. No harm, no foul.
I'm sure I'll be getting a message, but you know.
Well, I thought it was our other friend. Oh God, what is his name? What is the other friend? What is our other friend's name that runs the film directory? I thought
Uh
he complains to you a lot more than Travis does.
oh yeah, he likes to send complaints to my email that I set up just for him. It's idgaf kc at complaints.com. Yeah, and I got like 7 of his emails like just yesterday.
Okay.
Is it Nathaniel?
Um, maybe Nathaniel. I think Nathaniel's right. Um, I think his last name is Marchland,
Yeah, yeah.
or
It's something like that.
but I
Something stupid.
but I just like to call him Butthurt. So that's my little nickname for him.
Yeah.
Nathan, we love you, buddy.
I'll be getting messages from him too, but it's okay. So, how are you today?
I'm good. I'm good. It's it's Friday at the time of recording, so just wrapping up my week, getting ready for an eventful weekend for Memorial Day. Trying to get I got a heavy schedule today. I've got you now, and I've got Kaiju Weekly in a couple of hours, and then I'm recording with our friend Nathan and our other friend Danny Demana tonight for their or for Nathan's Patreon stream. So it should be fun. Lots of podcasting to do today.
Yeah. A lot of sounds like you got a busy day. It's good that I could fit you in.
Right. I mean, I will always, Elijah, make time for you because
I appreciate
I
it.
enjoy the work you do. So
I appreciate it. And I'll forgive the other two times that you couldn't make time for me. It's okay.
I mean, I was trying to do some adulting things. You know, I have to pay my taxes. You know, buy a car. You know, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't spend all of my time talking about kaiju and tokusatsu.
So weird. I couldn't imagine anybody having a real life, you know.
I mean, real life is important. Outside of having a real life outside of fandom is probably the most important thing you can have. Like, it's really bad when you see folks that all they are is just people just they associate their entire identity with fandom, and that
Mhm.
goes into a really dangerous place, I think. When you start when your entire when the entirety of you as a person is wrapped up in fandom, and you have no room for outside stuff outside of the fandom and outside of your hobbies. I mean, to me, that's just a little bit unhealthy.
Yeah. Yeah, I definitely agree. And wow, we're getting deep in all real quick here.
You know, I don't waste any time.
Oh yeah, no, you like to get straight to the point. So, speaking of getting straight to the point, let me just give a brief introduction to what we're doing today, because nobody knows what we've been talking about now for the last 7 minutes. So I asked you on to interview you. I interviewed Travis. I'm never interviewing Nathan. That's not true, but I like to poke fun of him. Love you, Nathan. But now I get to interview you, and that has been on my list now for a few months.
It has been. It has been. And the terms of my contract with you was I had to come on before Nathan.
Mhm.
So just so I could say I did it first and did it better.
Exactly, exactly. So for the next roughly 50 minutes, because I don't want to keep you too long, I'm just going to ask you questions
Sure.
to get to know who is Michael Hamilton.
Sure. Yeah, let's go for it.
So first, I think, even though anybody listening to this probably listens to Kaiju Weekly, I would bet, but if they haven't, who is Michael Hamilton?
Well, Michael Hamilton is a 34-year-old nerd who loves Godzilla and Tokusatsu, has loved that kind of who has loved monster movies and science fiction pretty for my entire existence. I'm also a podcaster. I podcast with a fantastic co-host, Travis, at Kaiju Weekly. I have dabbled in having my own show, which right now is on hiatus while I deal with some life stuff and just my busy schedule with work. So I don't always have time for podcasting. I got to make time for work and the things and my job and the things that actually make a living for myself. So sometimes when you have to, sometimes things have to be sacrificed so that you can do those other things. So outside of that, I am from West Virginia. I don't know if you guys can hear the accent, but I've been told that I have a thick accent. I don't think I do, but yeah, yeah. I mean, that's really all I have to say. I'm not all that interesting. So, I'm a little bit surprised that you asked me to come on and have this chat.
Well, I think you are one of the most interesting people I know. Maybe I'm
Well,
not
then you
saying
don't
a
know.
lot there.
Then you don't know very many interesting people. Then I will say that.
Yeah, probably. Well, I did interview the guy who made Mechagodzilla, so maybe
Oh,
maybe I know a few.
you mean the best Mechagodzilla? The best Mechagodzilla design ever?
Uh, um,
Hands over head over head and tails better than Showa Mechagodzilla.
I'm just gonna move to the next question. So, speaking of kaiju and Mechagodzilla,
Sure.
when did you get into kaiju and what got you into kaiju?
Well, it was a sunny day back in 1993. I was a wee lad. Uh, but no, I'm not gonna continue that because I don't want to offend your international listeners, especially if I'm not mistaken. Your co-host is from the UK, correct?
He is from Australia, but
Ah,
close.
close, close. So I'm not gonna continue with that with that poor Irish accent. Anyway, um, I got started with kaiju and toku back in '93 because I
Mhm.
actually started out with Power Rangers, VR Troopers, Beetleborgs, things of that nature. Because in those shows you had superheroes fighting giant monsters, and I, as a person who really loved dinosaurs, I know that's for anybody who's in this genre. It's probably cliche at this point to say that we all love dinosaurs growing up, but that's obviously how I came up. I love Jurassic Park and all those and those types of movies. And so when I discovered proper kaiju movies like Godzilla, all I saw at that point was big dinosaur breathes fire, awesome, fights other big dinosaurs. fine. That's my thing. And I grew up with that I grew up with that stuff. I grew up with Harryhausen. I remember watching Beast from 20,000 Fathoms growing up in my parents' living room on our little 13-inch tube television, and I that's sort of where the bug bit me because I remember back in, oh god, I think it was 1994. I think it was 94. The TNT channel, the old TNT channel, when the TNT channel was actually good, ran a marathon on New Year's Eve and New Year's Day called the Godzillathon. It was part of their Monster Vision, because they would all, like, I think it was every Saturday night, or every Friday or Saturday night, they would run a monster movie on TNT. And it was usually a Harryhausen film. Sometimes there would be a Godzilla film, and then there would sometimes be these obscure little movies that I had never heard of, but later on found out were really really good as I got older, like Rodan. They also showed Mothra, and I think they showed, if I'm not mistaken, King Kong Escapes and some other things way back in the day, and it was just a lot of fun. And so I watched this marathon, and I have to contribute a lot of my love of Godzilla and this fandom to my parents, because my parents were two saints. Um, they took shifts, and this is something I've talked about on Kaiju Weekly when people would ask me this question. But they took shifts during that marathon, and they recorded each and every one of those movies for me. They stayed up all night, recorded all 13 films, made sure they got them all, and then that was what I watched. That was the start of my Godzilla film collection, way back in 1994, with those recorded VHS tapes. So, many years pass. As I got older, I grew up. I became less enamored with Power Rangers and Tokusatsu, and I like to say that in later middle school and high school, liking Godzilla and Toku didn't get you a whole lot of dates to the prom. So um, I was always that weird kid who just kind of liked that kind of stuff, but had to suppress it so that I could feel like one of the cool kids. And I'm sure there's a lot of folks out there listening to your show that feel the same way, that growing up, they had to kind of suppress that love of giant monster movies because it just was not super cool to be a Godzilla
Hmm.
fan. At least it's not as cool as it is now, or at least it wasn't as cool as it is now to be a Godzilla fan, because it feels like we're getting all this kaiju media, specifically Godzilla merch and things surrounding, like, the hype around Godzilla versus Kong. I had someone come up to me out of the blue. When I was at work, and they said, "Hey, I took my nephew to watch Godzilla versus Kong," and I said, "Oh, that's great. Well, how did you like it?" I said, "Well, he loved it. I was okay with it, but we both had a lot of fun." And you know what? That's, to me, that's progress, because that just means that there's that interest for these types of movies in the mainstream, albeit small. I will say it's not at Star Wars and Marvel level, as much as I kind of wish it was, but I'm happy that there is sort of that visibility with these types of movies out there in the mainstream, as of this moment, where it wasn't like that 20 years ago when I was growing up. And I have often said that I kind of miss the good old days when it was just me in my bedroom watching my Godzilla movies, and I was in my happy place at that point, because everything just felt easy. And as you get older, your interests change. But I will say that the one thing that has hardly changed as I've gotten older is my love of kaiju and giant monsters and sci-fi. My taste in fashion, my taste in cars, my taste in just a number of different things has changed. But my love of this genre has always stayed the same. And it all started with, one, watching Power Rangers every Saturday morning, and two, my parents being so gracious enough to record all of those movies for me growing up, so that I could watch them over and over until literally the tape burned out.
Yeah, that's awesome. I remember because I watched them on VHS originally. I think I wore out one or two of them because I just you would put it in one day and you'd watch it, whether it was the
Mhm.
4 hours, the 6 hours, the 8 hour tape, whatever it was, and then
Right.
you just rewind it, and then you'd start it over again, and you'd just keep watching them. At least that's what I did.
I'm gonna share with you, and this is something I have never shared with. I don't think I've shared it on any other show before, so I'm gonna give you an exclusive right now, Elijah. Growing up, I used to. This is way before I. This is many years before I discovered what cosplay was. So many years before that, I made myself some Godzilla spines out of cardboard and a Godzilla tail out of um, two old bathroom towels with rubber bands wrapped around them to give it rigidity and give it like the segmentation of a Godzilla tail to make it look like a proper tail. So that was what I would do when I was younger. Now, granted, I was like 8 years old when I'm doing this, so it's actually like I'm not doing this at 15 years old. That would not be acceptable for a 15-year-old boy to do. But I cannot confirm nor deny that I didn't think about it. But growing up, I did. I made my own Godzilla spines. I remember my dad helped me. We made this little backpack contraption thing with the cardboard spines on the back of it, and we made the tail and everything. And when I would watch these Godzilla films, I would pretend like I was my hero. I pretend like I was Godzilla in the movie. And I would have such a great time. And it goes back to what you were just saying, where, once you're done with the 4 hour, the 6 hour tapes, you rewind them and then watch them over again. I probably drove my poor parents and my sister crazy, rewinding and rewatching Godzilla, almost to the point where I think at that point they gave me my own TV and my own VCR so that I could watch my movies in my room and not disturb anybody else. So
Yeah. Yeah, I know the feeling. And I'm trying to think because I feel like I built a costume myself. I don't, it might have just been a robot,
mhm.
but I think I did something like that too. And now I'm going to make fun of you for it.
Well, there's no point in making fun of me for it. I fully embrace the fact that I've always had that nerdy streak in me. And like I remember, I think if I'm not mistaken, after my dad passed away, we went to the house to clean out everything, and I found that old set of Godzilla spines up in the attic. Now, granted, they were not in great shape, so I ended up having to throw them away. Um, but I found all that stuff, and it was a great little memory to call back to. So it's really weird. It's really interesting, and it's really weird at the same time about what kids will do to uh, kind of use their imagination to be a part of something that they care about.
Right. And, I think it's just, it, there's the saying of a childlike sense of wonder and
Mhm.
imagination. And it's kind of interesting how when we were all wee lads, like we could use cardboard and
Mhm.
build spines and then we're Godzilla. We were able to put ourselves in that world so easily, and that's it's a very interesting thing to think about. Um,
Yeah, I mean,
it,
I think that there is something about this genre that does invoke like a childlike sense of wonder. I like to think about this conversation I had with Henry, our friend that came from a monster movie, and when he was on my show back when I did a solo show, we were talking about King of the Monsters, and he was giving the verbal illustration of him talking to his kids in class when he taught over in Korea, and he showed them. I know Henry listens to your show, so if I get this wrong, he will correct me. But he said that he showed them a clip of King of the Monsters, the battle in Boston. Then he showed them a clip of Ghidorah, the three-headed monster from 1964, and I think if I'm remembering correctly, one of the students piped up and said, "Teacher, when is that what you see You see the same thing we see in King of the Monsters. Is that the same thing you saw in Ghidorah the three-headed monster? And this says yes, because for a lot of us that grew up with Godzilla and Tokusatsu and Ultraman and others, like they did invoke some sense of wonder and imagination because everything in those movies was just so over the top and so absurd. And at the time, we didn't know that it was absurd. We didn't know that it was just I won't say silly because I don't call these movies silly. I don't think that that's a fair thing. I don't think that's a fair assessment of these films, but they
Mhm.
were unique in their own way. And I think that is something that has stuck with all of us, you, me, Nathan, Henry, Travis, all of us that are closely knit together in this genre, in this fandom, throughout these many years, because we all grew up loving what we love now, and it's just the idea that now in our 20s and 30s that we're not afraid to embrace the fact that yeah, we really enjoy watching movies about a giant radioactive dinosaur that fights other giant radioactive creatures, um, but happens to be done by men in rubber suits. I mean, to a lay person, to the average normal viewer, that seems silly, but to us, it's what we grew up on. It's what we cut our teeth on. It means something to us, and I think that's something important to hold on to.
Yeah, and it kind of when you said that, it reminded me of the story of Ray Bradbury and Ray
Uh-huh.
Harryhausen. How when they saw King Kong in 1933 at the
Mhm.
Chinese Theater in California,
Mhm.
when they went out of the theater, they made a promise to each other that they would grow old but never grow up because
Right.
of how Kong like impacted them.
Right.
And I feel like the same is can be said for these fans who have grown up on the campy stuff. Um, they grew old, but they didn't grow up entirely. There's a part of them that still appreciates and loves those movies, no matter
Mhm.
how insane they might be.
Right. Yeah, I don't think I'll ever grow up. Like, I mean, not in like a not in a bad way. Like, I
Yeah,
think that at some point you have to grow up. You have to, assess what your priorities are as a young man or a young woman. Um, but at your it's okay to grow up but not or to grow old but not grow up, in the sense that you're still allowed as a 34-year-old man to like Godzilla and like Power Rangers and like all that stuff. Like that is a part of you now. Like that is a part of your personal history, and it's really and it's almost healthy. And let me preface this by saying, without going too far, it is healthy to embrace that.
yeah, definitely. What yeah, that's a good way to look at it. And I think one thing that's important for because we mentioned earlier, before we did the interview, how people sometimes identify their entire personality and like life on the fandom. Um, and I feel like to an extent that might be part of them not wanting to let go of that childness because of how I think important it is to everybody. That because it's when you have that, you view things different. You can appreciate stuff for just entertainment. As an example, Godzilla versus Kong.
Mhm.
It was. I don't think it was a good movie, but a lot of people, a lot of critics too, really liked the movie. And I think it's because the film was able to give you what you grew up with. I've
Mhm.
heard a lot of people say it reminds them of a cartoon, like, one of those Saturday morning cartoons that the plot's very thin, but it's fun. It gets you to what you wanted, and it delivers. and a lot of people like that aspect of it.
Right, and that's something that I think, I don't remember if this was on cast or if this was a private conversation between Nathan and I, that GVK is sort of the same, not beat for beat, but it is sort of the same situation as um, Kong 33. Whereas where Kong 33 was an escape from the depression, uh, you know, GVK was an escape from the pandemic, from COVID, from the
Hmm.
cares of the outside world, the stress of politics and family and all the things that were going on. GVK served as a really good escape for that kind of stuff. And I think that's why a lot of people, especially a lot of general audiences, have invested their time in viewing it. Now, whether or not that movie made someone a new fan, and I'm sure that there are I'm sure that there are new fans of this genre that were made through GVK, but I personally feel like a lot of the general audiences just wanted a fun escapist movie to go to and watch. And it kind of goes, I don't know if we want to get too deep into it, but it kind of goes into this argument of why you would want an escapist movie, just a fun movie versus something that has some deep-seated philosophical message.
Hmm.
You know, I think that one of the critiques of the MonsterVerse in general has been um, uh, they've kind of left behind the nuclear message uh, that was established in the earlier films with Gojira and especially in the Showa era. Um, the One of the critiques of the MonsterVerse has been that they just kind of made big blockbuster movies about monsters fighting each other, and I don't think that that's necessarily a fair assessment myself. I don't agree with that because there are some subtle nuclear messages within 2014, and there are some very significant themes established in Kong Skull Island, and there are you may have to dig a little bit deeper, but I would even argue that there are some deeper themes in King of the Monsters and GVK. Each of the MonsterVerse movies, does have something to say.
Right,
And if you're willing to dig a little deeper for it, I mean, I'm sure you'll find it.
and even in the contract that Toho made Legendary sign, one of the requirements is Godzilla must have a metaphor. You can actually find this in one of their licensing guides.
Mhm.
Godzilla has the if Godzilla is to be in a movie, there has to be a significant political message. So 2014 is, the nuclear messages. Um, King of the Monsters is environmental.
Mhm.
I'll look past the pro nuclear stuff. Um, and then even, in GPK, as it is with basically every Mechagodzilla movie, real life beats artificial. So there's a message in each film.
There is.
It's just the layer in the depth, I think, is where it's really a problem. And you mentioned how a lot of people criticize the MonsterVerse for being popcorn films,
Mhm.
and this might get into a debate. So I'm going to try and keep this skin deep. But I would argue that it doesn't need to be deep, or like the film doesn't have to be serious to have a deep meaning, like King Kong versus Godzilla, where it's a comedy, it's a satire,
Mhm.
but its political message is how the television industry was very corrupt. What sells the most viewers? How can we get the most views on something? Which I think works, and I think the Japanese version does a great job of establishing what it wants to be. It wants to be a comedy that you don't take serious, and it rolls with that. And it's got some great stuff politically, especially when you do the research. Monstrosities did a great video about the environment that the original King Kong versus Godzilla film was made in,
Mhm.
and it's really interesting to hear how the industry of television impacted the film. And I think personally one of my problems with like the MonsterVerse is it it's self-aware, but it also tries to do a different thing. Like 2014 is very serious, and it keeps with that tone. It knows what it is.
Mhm.
But then you've got like King of the Monsters that it wants to be a campy Godzilla film. It wants to be a comedy, and it wants to be serious. And I feel like having those different ideas for your film clash with each other and do cause some problems. I think it's one of those things that has came from the Marvel films that they're a serious thing, but they also like to throw in comedy
Mhm.
to lighten the mood. And I
Yeah,
think a
the,
lot of
the the
films
best
have
example for
struggled with
that
that.
probably is what Thor Ragnarok, because I feel like Thor Ragnarok was just pure comedy.
Yeah, it was. Now I do love that film because it's a comedy, but one of the big criticisms is Ragnarok is a very serious thing in Norse mythology and in comics.
Hmm.
And turning that into just a comedy doesn't bode too well for a lot of people, especially people who are very, very into Norse mythology, which is
Hmm.
fair.
It is.
So,
And that's where I think the American version of King Kong versus Godzilla missed the boat, because I think they they kind of um, they kind of missed the point of what the Japanese version was trying to do. The Japanese version was trying to be a satire, whereas the American version tried to turn it into a very serious,
hmm
very like a very serious, very scientific versus film.
hmm
Because they had the name recognition of Godzilla and Kong, so they wanted to milk that as much as they could. But I don't think that it quite pulled it off. Now, granted, I have a lot of love for the American version because that's what I grew up with. But I can honestly say that the Japanese version is better, because you can see more clearly what the original intent of the film was supposed to be.
hmm
And I think you're right. King of the Monsters does have a slight identity crisis, because it wanted to be a serious environmentalist, anti-climate change uh, kind of film, and it also wanted to put in some of the humorous notes with some of the cast and the one-liners, and then we got that ridiculous Mothra Godzilla shipping stuff from that because of just one-off joke in the film, and then some acting was not great. I really enjoyed the family dynamic between the Russells. I think that was probably the heart and soul of the film. And then you fast forward to GVK, and GVK is very self-aware as to what it wants to be.
hmm
It is an action movie that it is, and I think Travis said this the best, that that GVK sacrificed substance over spectacle. Now there is substance there, and I don't want to get into it because I think you and I touched on it more in our review of GVK. So if you're interested in that, audio listener, go listen to that when we actually talk about the movie. But on a surface level, I think GVK did slightly sacrifice substance for spectacle, but that's not always a bad thing. That's not always a bad thing. I think that GVK was the right movie at the right time for the right people.
yeah, definitely. And I just want to say we got on a great tangent there, but this isn't. It's a deep conversation about the film, which is awesome. But I should be interviewing you on in your awesome stuff instead of the awesome films that we base our awesome stuff off of.
Yeah, we can switch. We can shift gears a little bit here.
So the next question I had on my list, this is something I'm going to start doing with all of my interviews. So you're the first to answer this
Oh,
question.
okay.
What is your spirit kaiju?
My spirit kaiju. Okay, well, um, a lot of folks have told me that I have Anguirus energy, so I'm gonna have to go with Anguirus, simply because he's stubborn and never gives up. He's loyal to the friends that he cares about, and yeah, I really like his aesthetic. I think Anguirus has a great look to him, and I think I have a great look to me too. So that's
That's fair. You know, when you said Anguirus, the first thing I thought of was, oh, Godzilla's friend. He's loyal. So hey, maybe that's a good assessment. So the next question I had is, what do you like to do with your kaiju hobby?
with my kaiju hobby. I mean, I don't do. I mean, I honestly wish I was as talented as some people who make stop motion movies. I wish I could take better photography. But mainly what I do, I guess you could say podcasting is a hobby. We talk about mainly giant monsters and kaiju. Um, I also collect figures. I'm one of those people that has shelves full of toys. The one thing I like to joke about is, as you get older, your toys get more expensive, and I started collecting about 3 years ago, and basically what I was doing, I was in a really nostalgic mood, and I think my first figure that I bought for myself that was just a frivolous purchase that was Godzilla related was the NECA. I think it was the NECA poster version Godzilla 1954 or 1956 technically, because if you're going by the American poster version,
Mhm.
the King of the Monsters version. So that was the very first like figure that I bought myself, and then since then I have, Bandai's, X Pluses, the pop figures, just basically whatever I can get my hands on. Now I don't have as an extensive collection as say our friend Danny Damana, because I don't think anyone has as much Godzilla collectibles as Danny. At least people that I know at least people that I'm actually friends with. Um, I just collect. I find things that appeal to me and I collect them. And I'm in my office right now where I do a lot of my work, and I'm just surrounded by the things that I love, and posters and books and DVDs and just these different things. I don't do a whole lot. To answer your question, I don't do a whole lot with my hobby. I enjoy it. I enjoy just having this memorabilia, because you know it just kind of it excites that inner youthful child in me, that it kind of takes me back. And this is I own a lot of toys that my parents necessarily couldn't afford to give me growing up, so I'm making up for lost time, let's just say that.
Yeah. So are you? My next question is actually, what do you like to collect? Would you say you're kind of a universal collector? You just kind of buy what you're in the mood for?
I typically, yeah. I mean, I typically lean towards some of the higher end stuff, some of the higher end more. I like to buy the more screen accurate figures. I like Bandai's. I do. I started out collecting Bandai's and NECA's and SH Monster Arts, but I figure if I'm going to spend this kind of money on toys, I want the best version of the toy that I can possibly find.
Hmm.
So I started then collecting like X Plus and model kits and these different items that I just really admire. And it just really depends. It depends on what I'm in the mood for. It depends on what I see. And it also depends, if we're getting very practical, it just depends on what I can afford. Something,
Hmm.
because as you know, Elijah, this hobby is not cheap.
Uh, oh yeah, yeah, not cheap.
I mean, it could always be worse. We could be, you know, spending our money on things that could, harm us or other people. So, um, I think we're doing okay with Godzilla and kaiju stuff.
That's a good point. That's a great point. So my next question actually has to do with uh how we kind of met. We met through podcasting. Uh, Pretty awesome. That random tweet Travis added me at, and look at where we're at now, right?
Right?
Um,
Fascinating. I think it was what a
so
year. It was like a year or two ago.
I think it was because the first Kaiju quarantine was a year. It's been like in a year and a month or something like that. It's
Yeah,
been about
the first Kaiju quarantine I believe was in May. It was either April or May. I can't honestly remember. It may have been in April, if I'm not
wait.
mistaken.
I was on Twitter like in May. It was May.
Okay.
That's how I remember is that stupid song I wrote. Uh, so yeah, it's been about a year. Not Travis, Michael, why did you choose podcasting?
Well, I like to say that I didn't choose podcasting. Podcasting chose me. Basically, what had taken place was, um, as I became more ingrained into the fandom around 2018 or so. Well, sooner than that because my fandom really got reignited in 2014 with Godzilla and then Kong Skull Island and then the films that would come after that, and then I went on this journey to find all the movies on DVD and Blu-ray. Um, so my fandom had really been ignited then, and then I got involved with some of the Facebook groups, and then the Facebook groups turned into me wanting to listen to podcasts about this stuff. And I think one of the first few podcasts that I started listening to was the Monster Island Film Vault with our friend Nathan. Um, I think Monsters versus Men was around that time too. Of course, the Kaiju Cast was one of the first ones I listened to, and then Kaiju Weekly. I tried a bunch of different podcasts, and I'm really particular about podcasts, especially about I should just say about podcasts in general. It's like if if and I don't want this to sound mean, so I'm trying to reel myself in here. If I don't connect with the host, if I don't enjoy listening to their voices, I don't listen. I don't keep listening because,
Right.
if I can't enjoy it, then what's the point? Like, you may have great information, but if you put me to sleep while I'm listening to said information, then it's not going to be good for anybody. Um, so I remember listening to Kaiju Weekly. I can't remember what the first episode was. I want to say it was either the Beast from 20,000 Fathom, their Beast from 20,000 Fathoms episode, or maybe it was even King of the Monsters. I'm not 100% sure. So Travis was asking for listener feedback, and so I wrote him an email, and I gave him three listener questions, and they answered those questions across three different episodes. And I think Steven, his co-host at the time, made the joke of, if we keep answering this guy's questions, he's just gonna have to come on the podcast now, isn't he? And then about, I don't know, a few weeks later, I get a direct message from Travis, and he's like, "Hey, um, would you want to come on the podcast and talk about a movie with me?" And I'm like, "Yeah, sounds like fun." And I think the first episode I did with Kaiju Weekly was about Frankenstein Conquers the World, which is still one of my favorite which is still one of my favorite Showa movies, and probably one of my favorite Kaiju and Toku movies. Period, because I just really really love that film. And so we did. I want to say we did um, Frankenstein Conquers the World, and then we did. I want to say it came from beneath the sea, or maybe it was Gamma versus Gauss. I'm not 100% sure. So I did a couple episodes with Travis because his co-host at the time needed to take a break due to some personal issues. And then about after like the second recording or the third recording, Travis is like, "Hey, my co-host needs to take an extended break. How would you like filling in for him for the time being until he's able to come back. And so, like, sure, that sounds like fun. I don't have much going on. I mean, I have time to commit like an hour a week or something like that to talk about a movie. It sounds like a lot of fun. And like 3 episodes turned into 10, and then 10 episodes turned into 20, and then they just kind of spitball from there. And I have been on Kaiju Weekly since episode 9, and we're getting ready to record our 76th episode. So it's been a while. And in between there, I started my own show, the Kaiju Groupie Podcast, where I wanted to sit down, sort of like in the similar format as we're doing now, and just kind of have conversations one on one with other fans about just topics in like just different topics in general. It doesn't really matter as long as it was kaiju or toku related. That was fine. I don't want to say that I gave up on that podcast, but it did have to go on the back burner for a while, and it still is kind of on the back burner for a little bit, because just some other things had to take priority over it. But I would like to start it back again. I would like to start maybe not necessarily it, but a different show, that kind of has a little bit of a broader scope. That doesn't necessarily just give me just kaiju and toku, but just giant monster films or just topics within this genre in general. And then, of course, along the way, I've met some fantastic people. I've met you, Elijah, of course, Travis, Eric, and Alex from the Monsters vs. Men, our friend Nathan, Danny DeMana, Henry, just all these people that I've had the pleasure of getting to know over the past year and a half or almost a year and a half, I think, of podcasting. And I have met some of my very, very good friends just through this medium and being involved in this genre. And yeah, and that's why I'm here at this moment talking to you, because apparently you and I are friends now, so we can have these conversations.
Right. It's kind of funny, because we had been talking on, after Kaiju quarantine, we had talked, off and on Twitter. We hadn't, done any actual podcast yet, and then at least I don't think we have. I could be wrong. I might have filled in for you, or I might have filled in for Travis. It's all blended together.
Mhm.
But I thought we were just like we knew each other, and we would occasionally talk. And then when you went on your social media break, you're like, "Hey, here's how you can contact me." Uh, and at that moment, it's like, "Wait a minute, we're actually friends." Okay, this changes this whole dynamic. Now I gotta actually like you, which I did, but for a while there, I just thought we talked about kaiju stuff and fandom stuff.
It's okay, Elijah. For a while there, you didn't like me. Is that what you're saying?
I got a good vibe from you.
Oh man.
I can say with certainty that you and Travis I got a good vibe from, and I enjoyed talking to both of you.
Yeah, I mean, we enjoy talking to you too. I mean, I will say that we are surprised how of what a wealth of knowledge you actually are. Sometimes you do still surprise us, Elijah. I will say that.
I'm
Um,
happy to hear that.
but no, I am grateful. I am grateful to Travis for giving me that opportunity to come on and talk about things that I never at that point got a chance to talk to about anybody, because my family at the time didn't necessarily care about it. That they didn't care about this genre, and they knew of like Kong and Godzilla and these other things, but I was really the only one that was very invested in it and knew, was an actual fan. I think the rest of my family just kind of put up with it just because I liked it. So, but it was just nice to find a group of people, um, that I could share this hobby with.
Right. And it's kind of at the time I didn't really listen to Kaiju Weekly a lot.
Shame
Um,
on you.
I know. Shame on me. I'm so far behind on episodes. You don't even know. But when you came on, it's almost like the stars aligned because after you came on, Travis did the Kaiju quarantine thing, and then our little friend group came together and came a friend group, and it was perfect. And look at where we're at now. This is
Are
all
you
thanks to Travis, I think.
I mean, I was gonna say, are you trying to say that all of this is because of me? But then you say it's all because of Travis, but okay.
Well, you are the Captain America. Travis is the Iron Man. He's a book fan. He'll appreciate that.
That is fair. That is fair. I really do appreciate Travis. He is a fantastic co-host. I will say that. I sincerely mean that. He is a fantastic co-host.
Yeah, we appreciate Travis here somewhat. We can't give him too much, or else he'll
He gets a little whiny, you know.
yeah, yeah. So, all of this stuff podcasting asks, what is it like to be a kaiju podcast?
You know, it's I want to say for the most part it's fun. I will say it's for the most part it's fun to be a kaiju podcaster. Now, you do have to get a little bit creative sometimes with your film selection and the approaches that you take on these films because a lot of the movies and TV shows that we've covered have been covered extensively by other people. So sometimes it can become really difficult to mine different ideas and different themes out of these movies and TV shows. So the approach that Travis and I take on Kaiju Weekly is we just embrace the fact that we enjoy them and we celebrate these movies. Granted, we don't celebrate every movie because we have run across films that neither one of us like that do have obvious flaws that are sort of a slog to get through. And so those conversations typically turn into just me and Travis riffing off of each other and making fun of the movie, but in a lighthearted, semi-respectful way. So, there's a lot of podcasters out there that take this genre very seriously. There's a lot of people that take, kaiju podcasting, they approach it from an academic's perspective. And then there's a lot of them that just kind of do sort of what we do. And we just appreciate the film for what it is. And we try to take movies and TV shows within the context that they were made and what they set out to be. And then we try to, dig out some of the positives from that media. So, I mean, overall, to answer the question, it's not hard to be a kaiju podcaster. I don't say that to denigrate what we do because there is some skill level to it. You have to be somewhat of a people person to do this thing. You have to love people and love the source material to want to sit down and talk about it. But it's not for everybody. It's not for everybody to get behind a microphone and talk for hours on end about just a very specific, very niche genre of film.
Yeah. Personally, my favorite episodes is when both of you have different opinions and you yell at each other.
We don't yell at each other too much. I mean, I can count maybe on one hand the times that Travis and I have yelled at each other on cast. Now we've yelled at each other off cast before a lot because we do have we have our own very strong opinions on certain things within and outside of the kaiju fandom. So we do argue. I won't say we don't yell. I shouldn't say yell because we don't yell. We vigorously argue or we vigorously debate certain topics. Now, the probably the one you're referencing is the one that a lot of people bring up, the debate between Travis and I on when we answered the listener feedback question about whether the Jurassic Park dinosaurs are kaiju or not. So that went on. Poor Kaiju Kim. We love Kaiju Kim. We are so appreciative to what she does on her YouTube channel. But she had the misfortune of sitting there for at least 10 minutes and listening to me and Travis argue on air about whether or not the Jurassic Park dinosaurs are kaiju. And
They are.
my argument was, of course, they are and they aren't, because the dinosaurs they are in the sense of they are genetically altered, they are genetically engineered, genetically altered creatures, but they aren't in the sense that they are, they were the closest, they tried to mimic what we knew of dinosaurs in the fossil record at that time. It got a little heated during that episode, but it was still a lot of fun. And I know that you're not by yourself, Elijah, in the fact that people have told us that they really enjoy the episodes where Travis and I do argue, or we do debate with each other. We'll say that.
You know, my I kind of wish this would have been recorded, but I think it would have been too intense for audience members. Was we had a conversation about Godzilla in public domain or not.
Oh no, we're not going. No, we're not going there. We're not going there. All I will say is, Elijah, I was squarely on your side
And
during
I
that
appreciate
conversation.
that. You and I are on the same team, so we're not going to argue, but that was my favorite intense debate.
Oh, that was
That
it got very intense.
that was a good day. That was a good day. And then I feel like we there was another time that you were not on my side, and it was about I think it was about Godzilla versus Kong, and you and Travis were on the same team, and I think Nathan was kind of like middle ground, and I was over here being pretentious.
Well, I mean, you do. I will say this: you do have a tendency to be, um, to use, and I use this term loosely, to be a bit of a gatekeeper.
Hmm. You see, only true Godzilla fans can own the Shogun Warriors Godzilla.
Oh, I had growing up. Don't have a clue where it is now, but I do remember having it. It is probably at a garage sale somewhere. Yeah. Or it's probably in, I don't have no idea. Honestly, I have no clue. It may have gotten thrown away when we cleaned out the attic at my parents' old house.
You're gonna make me cry.
I know. I wish I had one in mint condition, because I think they go for I've actually go for a lot of money now. At least the originals do. I think they did a reissue of it not too long ago.
Yeah, there's the original run, and then there was two re-releases of it, slightly different each of them, and then they did a homage kind of release in 2014 with a more
Mhm.
accurate Godzilla design. That one goes for like $800 because I think it was a limited release.
Right.
And then there's a Safubi out there for it, but
Oh yeah,
it doesn't.
I've seen the Safube. I've seen the Safube, and for your audio listener out there, Safube just simply is just a really colorful vinyl toy.
Mhm. But it doesn't have the flinging fist or fiery tongue action, so it's not as cool.
Indeed, like the one from the '70s is the one that you want if you want to find one.
Yeah, and honestly, I'd say that is the Godfather of American Godzilla toys. Like that was one. Outside of that, it's the Aurora model kit. I
Yeah,
think.
either the Aurora model kit, of course, because there was three of them. There was the Godzilla, Rodan, and King Ghidorah.
Hmm.
Um, for the Aurora kits. And then I would say outside of those, Trendmasters, because a lot of people love their Trendmasters toys growing up.
Yeah, those were that is peak American Godzilla toys.
I think so. Yeah, and I know you really enjoyed your Mecha Grimlock toy.
Hmm. I did. am proud of it, even though I call it grimoire. uh, well, we're going a little over time, so I'm going to run to this next question, um, and then we got a few more, and then we'll wrap things up.
Sure.
So you run a magazine or co-run a magazine.
I
Uh,
do. I do co-run a magazine.
what what is that?
It's a nifty little publication called Kaiju Ramen. Basically, Travis, my co-host, came up with the idea of publishing a magazine around the time. I think it was around the time we found out that G Fest was canceled.
Hmm.
And so Travis came up with the idea of publishing our own magazine, and what makes this magazine different from, say, G Fan, which is another prominent, very popular, very good fan magazine dedicated to kaiju and Godzilla, or to Godzilla and other kaiju. Is our our magazine is completely done. I feel like our magazine is completely written and produced for fans. Like, it is written by fans for fans. I know that's a really cheesy line to use, but it really is. We started a Kickstarter about a few months ago. I think it was back last December. Yeah, last November, December. We started a Kickstarter. We got overfunded. We have more than enough. We got more than enough funding to produce the first year of issues, and it's just been crazy about how well received it has been in the past few months. We just published our second issue in April. We release it as a digital version first because it is we intended it on being primarily a digital magazine, but with limited run physical copies.
Hmm.
And we just released our physical copies, and I think there are still some on the website. So if you're interested in reading Kaiju Ramen magazine, just go on over to kaijuramenmagazine.com and pick up a copy, because as of the time of this recording, we do still have a few left for people wanting to grab one, and basically when they're gone, they're gone. And we plan on doing a re-release at some point during the year. Not sure exactly what that's going to look like, but I'll share with you, Elijah. We've been toying around with the idea of making it a trade copy style book, just
Hmm.
having all the issues in one place, with some extras and special, like maybe a special cover and just some extras to throw along with it to make it extra special. Maybe call it Kaiju Ramen Volume 1.
Kind of like a yearbook.
Sort of, yeah, sort of.
Yeah.
But it's a magazine. It's a digital magazine that celebrates kaiju fandom, tokusatsu, just anything in general that we just really enjoy about this genre. We've had several people that we're friends with, and we've met several people that we had no idea could write for us, and every person has done a fantastic job. I will say that your issue in the latest issue of Kaiju Ramen, Elijah, was great. I've talked to several people who have read the issue, and they say that that round one, a retrospective of King Kong versus Godzilla, was one of their favorite articles. So congratulations to you for being a published author now in a physical magazine.
That's awesome. I had no idea. That's really cool. I
Yeah.
just got a huge smile on my face.
But no, it's been a lot of fun. It has been a lot of fun. I will be honest and say that when Travis came to me with the proposal of doing a magazine, I was skeptical. Um, I was not really I really was on the fence about doing it, and then Travis was so passionate about it, and um, just the idea of publishing our own magazine, about the things that we love, just was too enticing not to go through. So I'm hoping that Kaiju Ramen lasts for a while. I think it might. as long as we keep getting the support from people like you and others online that have seemed to really enjoy it, we can keep working with fantastic artists. I think the latest cover is done by our friend Chris Gonzalez, Seaguns, on Twitter, and he's such a great artist, and the work that Sean McGinnis did for issue 1, and then of course Kaiju Hime, Destiny, is going to be doing did the cover for issue 3, and we are just so blessed and so privileged to get to work with all these fantastic artists and writers about a fan that went from just being a fan concept to an actual product, and in a very short amount of time, and that's something to be proud of. I think everyone involved with Kaiju Ramen should be proud of the work they've done.
Hmm. I know, I do try and separate my fandom from my real life, but I do find myself often talking about the magazine
Mhm.
because it's really good, and there's a lot of love and passion put into it.
Let me ask you this, Elijah. Outside of your own article, you can't use yours. What
Yeah.
has been your favorite feature in the magazine so far?
I like the theater versus streaming one.
Okay.
Um, I got a kick out of your review of GVK.
Okay.
Uh,
You probably disagreed with it, but okay.
yeah, I did, but it was not. I like how you laid it out. I thought that was kind of nice, kind of like a scrapbook. Um, I like Travis's Awaji Island, the Shin Godzilla zip line from issue 1.
Right. For it, yeah.
Um, those are kind of my highlights. Um, theater versus streaming. I'm very passionate about.
Hmm.
So
Yeah,
I think.
that article was actually co-written by two authors. The streaming portion of that article was written by Katie McKinstry. I hope I'm saying her last name correctly. And then the second part of that article that talks about the theater viewing experience was written by our friend Alex at the Monsters vs. Men podcast.
Yeah, that's so cool. I love that dynamic. That's really cool.
Yeah, it was an idea that I think Travis came up with to get the two perspectives, like
Hmm.
two different people, two different perspectives, because it is such a nuanced topic. Because especially during the pandemic, and as things kind of start to open up, and things, fingers crossed, we're at the end of this thing, and things can start getting back to normal. It is going to be a nice thing to look back on and see what it was like when we had to make it, when people had to feel like they made it, when people felt like they had to make a choice between going to the movie theater versus sitting in the safety of their own home. I mean, it's going to be an interesting thing to look back on.
Hmm. Definitely. So, this is my last question when it comes to stuff you do. And this is something I don't see mentioned a whole lot, but you are a part of a little Facebook group, the Kaiju Groupie.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Um, Regrettably, I'm not as involved with the Facebook group as I used to be. When I first came on, to when I was first asked to be an admin on that group, I met a bunch of great guys on there, or the Carroll brothers, O'Reilly and O'Royden. I hope I'm saying his younger brother. I hope I'm saying his name correctly. Cody and Raiden and some others. They were all great. Damien, Milton, actually all the admins that are a part of the Kaiju Groupie Facebook group are fantastic, and we were smaller in the sense that we are just over 1,500. I think we're just over 1,500 or just over 1,600 members, which is nowhere near some of the other Godzilla groups. But I feel like that we're better managed in the fact that we keep a good eye on things like just people being toxic, especially during right when GVK was getting released. We kept a very close eye on leaks and the YouTube links that led people to watch like full clips of the movie. We made sure to keep that stuff out, and I think that when you when I think that to have a successful Facebook group, you have to take the time to actually manage it, because there's a lot of Facebook groups out there that are a part of this genre that we love that are not well managed. Not going to name names, but there are two very large Godzilla centered Facebook groups that I can think of that are horribly managed, but that's neither here nor there. But yeah, I started out, helping out with the Facebook group, and then that's where I kind of adopted the name the Kaiju Groupie, because I co-opted that from the group name, because I wanted to start a podcast and I wanted to make an online presence. And then I'll be honest with you, I think that you know over time the name Kaiju Groupie is more associated with me than it is the Facebook group, and really it started with the Facebook group, honestly. And
Mhm.
so I'm almost tempted to rebrand myself, not as the Kaiju Groupie, but maybe the Kaiju Grifter or the Kaiju Grifty, as friends of this as friends have told me that I should name myself. But I don't know. Maybe I should just go with Lord Gatekeeper. I know our friend Nathan would really like that too. But I'm joking. I wouldn't name myself that anyway. But yeah, I do. There's really not a whole lot to talk about there. I don't manage it as close. I'm not working with the Facebook group as closely as I was, but I'm still in there. I'm still hanging out. Still talking with great fans like you and some others. And it is just a really great place that you can go to and not have to necessarily worry about the toxicity that you find in other groups. So yeah, if people want to find a great Facebook group that talks about kaiju and Godzilla, the Kaiju Groupie Facebook group is second to none.
Definitely. Well, that is all of my questions for what you do creatively. I've just got a few more questions left about you, and then we'll wrap this up with you getting to self-promote yourself, because we here at Kaiju Conversation don't forget about our guests and being able to promote themselves,
Right.
um, because we value that very highly. So,
Unlike some podcasts
yeah,
where we forget to let people give their shameless plug. It's fine.
yeah. So, Michael, what is your best experience in the fandom so far?
Um, I'm gonna have to go with the first Kaiju Quarantine. Like we talked about earlier, it was just sort of it was just sort of the stars aligned for that one, where we had a number of great podcasters on that stream, just watching movies and fielding taking questions and interacting with other fans. It was fantastic. We had you, me, Travis at Kaiju Weekly, Monster Island Film Vault, Monsters vs. Men, Tokyo Lives, Kaiju Transmissions, Gargantucast, and so many others on that stream, and it was just all really great, and it was probably a highlight of 2020 for me. So I'm gonna have to go with that, the original Kaiju Quarantine.
Yeah, definitely. That was a ton of fun. So now that we took a look at the past, for the future, do you have any big plans or big hopes for the future with what you're doing in the fandom?
Um, honestly, I'm hoping that Kaiju Weekly continues. I'm hoping that the magazine Kaiju Ramen continues, because both have been a lot of fun. I don't know if I'll get back into podcasting as an individual anymore. I'd like to, but it's just a matter of trying to fit it into an already busy schedule. But my thing is that I'm going to be focusing on this year is just, or the remainder of this year, is just trying to be the best version of myself that I can be. Helping new fans discover all the great things that this genre has to offer. And I know I'm gonna mess up every now and then and come off as a little bit of a gatekeeper. I'm sorry. We're all human. We're all flawed. But yeah, hopefully, I'm just gonna have some fun over the next year or so. Hopefully, I'm just gonna have some fun, and it's not gonna get boring, and it's not gonna get stressful. I know sometimes it will, but yeah, as long as being a part of this fandom remains fun, um, I'll stick around.
That's awesome. Sounds like you're pretty content with yourself, which is always a good thing.
I am. I'm pretty content with myself.
That's awesome. Now, I'm gonna ask you a question you asked me back, almost, it's been 6 to 8 months, since I was on your show. So, Michael, what are you currently watching? What series or show or movie?
Actually, not anything Toku or Kaiju related. Well, one thing Kaiju related. I'll say that. I have been watching Singular Point. I have been watching. I have been watching the subbed version of Singular Point as they become available. I'm up to episode 10, and honestly, I'm surprised as to how much I've enjoyed it. I didn't expect to like it. I was very skeptical, especially when the leaked renders of the new Godzilla design came out. I wasn't sure, but as I've seen the show kind of come together over these past 10 episodes, I'm very pleased with what Toho has been able to do for us. Non kaiju related, non fandom related. I have been watching a lot of I've been revisiting a lot of Monty Python stuff.
Hmm.
Monty Python's Flying Circus. I've been revisiting that. I've watched several other movies. Um, I've been watching a lot of the Discovery Channel lately too, because growing up, I really loved documentaries, especially documentaries to do with animals. So I've been watching I don't know, I think it came out a few years ago. It's not new, but it's new to me. Um, oh God, what is it called? I can't. Hostile Planet. I watch it on Disney Plus. I have the Disney Plus app, so I watch it on the Discovery Channel on Disney Plus, and it's just been, it's been a lot of fun. Been a lot of fun. So other than that, I don't watch a ton of TV. I read more than I watch television. So and really, even when I do watch TV, it's a lot of times it's for the podcast anyway.
I see. Any movies you've seen recently that,
Uh,
note?
Army of the Dead was good. The Netflix movie that just came out. Quiet Place 2. Uh,
How was that?
it was good. It was good. It was just as good as Quiet Place 1, which I was surprised and pleased by. It was just as
Good.
good. Let's see what else. What else have I watched lately? I've been kind of revisiting some older movies too. The original 20,000 Leagues Under the Sea, the Disney movie.
No.
From the I think that was from the 60s.
54.
54.
54.
Okay.
Mm.
I've been watching a lot of those older movies too on Disney Plus. Journey to the Center of the Earth, the original one, from
Mm.
the 50s as well, was a lot of fun. Yeah, so just been kind of revisiting a lot of those older movies that I grew up with. Been feeling a little bit nostalgic lately, so that's why I think.
Awesome. That's an answer I wasn't expecting, but it's a good answer nonetheless. So, what's next on your checklist to watch, whether it's a show or a movie?
Well, I haven't seen Mortal Kombat yet, so I'll probably watch that. I kind of missed the boat on it. I kind of missed the boat on that when it was on HBO Max. I
Hmm.
have a lot of I'd actually have to honestly look at my queue to tell you what I have coming up to watch. Um, Probably gonna watch. Honestly, what's literally next? I'm gonna have to go refresh my memory on Dragonheart, the original Dragonheart movie, because I'm supposed to be doing a live discussion stream about that later tonight.
Oh yeah, good luck. I had to do one of those too, and Nathan's a handful, but a good handful.
He's a hand. I mean, Nathan's a handful of something, but I don't know if it's good. But thankfully, we're gonna have our friend Danny Demana at the Godzilla novelization project there. Not the Godzilla novelization product, but Godzilla novelization project there to help balance us out.
Awesome. Now, since you're on three podcasts today, I think this is a very reasonable question to ask for your last one.
Sure.
What's the best podcast you've been on?
Well, I mean, I gotta say, my own, if I'm allowed to say my own podcast, obviously, Kaiju Weekly is probably the best podcast that I'm on.
But
But I will say that the podcast that I enjoy recording with the most is obviously Kaiju Conversations. I mean, Kaiju Conversations is fantastic,
yeah, they're really cool over there.
and I am not being paid to say that at all.
Uh, you answered right. You'll be able to come on another day.
Well, as okay, we'll just hold. What we'll do is we'll hold off on Nathan coming back anytime soon. So let me get another episode in above him, so that he has to catch up to me now.
I think what I might do is I might fast track Frankenstein Conquers the World.
You should.
That might be.
You
Yeah.
should. You should do that. And you, me, and Rex can sit down and talk about Frankenstein Conquers the World.
Yeah, I'd be down. Well, Michael, it's we're over time by what we were gonna do. So I'm gonna give you a few minutes. I'm just gonna sit back and you get to link yourself because we here remember to link our favorite people.
All right. Well, my name is Michael Hamilton. You can find me on the Kaiju Weekly podcast along with my co host, Travis Alexander. We publish weekly, as per the name, and we like to embrace the sillier side of the Kaiju and Tokusatsu genre, and we just like to appreciate these films and television shows for what they are. We like to give our opinions and our reviews, and we're actually one of the only, if not the only, weekly Godzilla Kaiju podcast that still does the news. So that's a lot of fun. So we try to keep up with news items each and every week, which I think a lot of people enjoy. And when it's a slow, there we go. When it's a slow news week, like it has been the last week or so, we like to play games that hopefully people enjoy that aren't super annoying to the audio listener. Outside of that, go and check out Kaiju Ramen Magazine. We have digital and physical copies still available for the magazine. You can find all that information about the different issues there at kaijuramenmagazine.com. Outside of that, you can follow me on Twitter at Kaiju Groupie Pod. You can follow Kaiju Weekly at Kaiju Weekly on Twitter, and then Kaiju Weekly Pod on Instagram. If you like figure photography or toys, you can find me on Instagram at the Kaiju Groupie. Kaiju Ramen has a Facebook page, so go and check that out. Like and subscribe, or like and follow us there for updates on future issues. Um, Outside of that, yeah, I've had a lot of fun, Elijah, and thank you so much for letting me come on and have a conversation with you.
Well, thanks for taking the time out of your very busy schedule to come on and have a great chat.
Oh,
Now, all of this. Oh, go ahead.
I was gonna say all. I mean, for sure, all for sure. I'm honestly surprised that you left out one very important question for me. Is is Clifford a kaiju? But
Well, I didn't think we needed to go over that because we both know the answer.
exactly, yes, Clifford is not a kaiju. So that we
Um,
both acknowledge this and we both accept it as fact.
you know, if you want to slide me some money, I will go tweet that out and I will defend you.
I will buy you a beer. How about that?
Okay. Uh, it's been a lot of fun, Michael. And as always, all of his stuff can be found in the description below. So check that stuff out. A lot of awesome stuff. Definitely give him a like, follow, subscribe, and buy the magazine. That just buy the magazine. It's a great magazine. Highly recommend. And with that, we have reached the end of the episode once more, ladies and gentlemen, all 7 of you listening. Um, I'm your host, Elijah. You can find me on YouTube at EC13 Productions. You can find me on Twitter at EC13 Productions or at eThomas1975. I also have an Instagram at ET13 Productions. Very simple. All of it's the exact same. As for the podcast, don't forget to rate us on iTunes. That 3-star ratings and helps us get recommended to more people just like you. Recently, we've been review bombed because people are putting 1-star reviews and not giving me criticisms to base it off of. So I can't do better. So if you guys could go on there and give us a 5-star review, I would greatly appreciate that. Though, if you don't have an Apple device, which I don't blame you, I don't, they're overrated, you can tweet us and follow us on Twitter at KAIJU_CONVERS. If you don't have either of those, you can like us on Facebook or follow us on Instagram and contact us that way. Any reviews work, and as always, we'll read your reviews out for everyone to hear. Or if you're like me before podcasting, you don't have social media, you can email us at kaijuconversation@gmail.com, all lowercase, all one word, you know the drill. We have merchandise on our Teespring store, it's just for logos. Eventually I'll do something creative with that, but that will come in 50 years when I get to it. If you'd like to chat with me or anybody one-on-one and hear different opinions on subjects, you can join our Discord server where you can talk to people that relate to you and what you love. In fact, that's where we record all of our episodes. That's where we are right now, actually. And don't forget to subscribe to our YouTube channel and hit the bell so you can be notified anytime we upload. Um, as of this recording, the day of a interview that I was privileged to conduct and host with the designer of Ready Player One Mechagodzilla and 2021 Mechagodzilla is going up on our YouTube channel as an exclusive. So there's some awesome stuff there and hopefully more exclusive stuff to come in the future. So definitely check that out. A huge thanks to our editor Rex for editing all of these episodes. His links can also be found in the description below. Thank you, Michael, so much. This has been a ton of fun as always talking with you. It's always memorable and I love doing this stuff. And thank you all for listening. But please remember, life's too short to not talk big. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys. Thanks.